There's not a single tutorial on the internet that works for every viewer. And here's the proof. We have 3 different videos that was sent to us. And if we gave the same advice to these 3 people, it would not work. If you want to send your videos so that you can get personalized advice, I'll explain how at the end of the video. So Giovanni sent us this video. I want to talk about what he's doing well first. He's doing the timing of the breaststroke very well, gliding in front while he's kicking, and then when he finishes kicking, he still glides a little bit more before he starts pulling. This is a very elegant way to swim breaststroke. It's very efficient, it's very calm. He also exhales a little bit when his head is underwater, but most of the exhale is coming when he's about to breathe, right there. So this is very good. His breathing is good. He's relaxed. He's horizontal in the water. This position is very rare from the videos we've seen of swimmers, but he's gliding with his arms in front. Usually people glide with their arms pointing up or pointing down, which can be detrimental to their swimming technique. And we'll see why on the next 2 videos. This also tells us that he has good range of movements of his shoulder. So what can he do better? As we can see, while he's pulling, his hips are low on the surface. When we see elite breaststrokers, their hips are touching the surface, or sometimes they come out of the surface. How can they achieve this? Here's where we need to see other problems to find a solution. And the next most obvious problem is that his head is not in line with the whole body. He's actually looking down or backwards, and his head is way too low. That's because he's bending his neck a little bit too much. Why is this a problem? Well, besides that he's creating more drag, he's not using the buoyancy of his chest to lift the hips up. Remember that the chest, full of air, always wants to float, while the legs always want to sink. This is natural, and it's part of how our bodies are composed. We don't have air in our legs or hips, so they're more dense, especially if you have a lot of muscle. And because of that, they tend to sink. We want to use our chest as our floating device. So we need to create pressure of the chest, pushing it down, especially on this position. Because the neck goes by itself and not in line with the chest remains up and the hips will not float up. If you push the head and the chest down, then the hips will rise. Another thing that he does well is that at the end of the kick, the legs are below the body line. This helps rise the hips, but not enough. On the next video, we can see what happens if you don't kick down. On this video, let's start with the positive. The swimmer who didn't send the name, while he's pulling, he has very strong fingers and hands. This is not usual for younger swimmers. What we see in our camps is that younger swimmers who don't have enough strength in their hands and forearms tend to make the fingers loose to keep the speed of the arms, but obviously they don't create enough pressure to move forward fast. The swimmer here is doing a very good job at creating pressure with his fingers and hands in general. Another thing is that we can see from this angle that the knees don't open too much. The ankles go wider, which is how you kick in breaststroke, so that's an excellent kick. But he doesn't kick down. You can see that when he finally finishes the kick, his feet are almost on the surface. Compare that with Giovanni, and you'll see that Giovanni's hips are up compared to this other swimmer. And that's because if you raise your legs before you stop kicking, then your hips will sink and your body will be in a U shape instead of an N shape. Another big mistake that this swimmer does is that he glides with the hands pointing up. He is actually pushing water with his hands forward instead of backwards. This is stopping him tremendously. The position of the head, however, is excellent compared to his chest. Compare this with Giovanni. And there's another obvious area of opportunity, which is the elbows go far below what they should. In breaststroke, remember that the elbows should go as far as his chest and no more. Remember in breaststroke, your elbows and your hands shouldn't pass your chest. That is if you're swimming for competition. If you're swimming just to feel smooth and good in the water, you can pull as far as you want. But in competitive breaststroke, if your hands pass your hips, you can be disqualified. The elbows here on this swimmer go up to his lower back. This position stops being propulsive and it takes too long. So my advice here would be to make a shorter pull. But the most obvious mistake for this swimmer is gliding with his hands pointing up and his elbows not even tight. When you send your video, make sure you use your name and the lane you're swimming in. Otherwise, we won't know which swimmer to analyze. This happened to one of the videos that was sent. Fortunately for Luigi, we know what lane he was swimming in because he won the event by a long shot. And this is one of the things he does well. Because he's in a competition, we know his goals are to swim fast and to win. And he did this with a big margin. I don't know Giovanni's goal, but if his goal is to swim smooth, then he's doing an excellent job just with a few corrections that he could benefit from. But if his goal was to swim faster, I would tell him to make his frequency faster and see if his technique breaks down a little or remains the same. Luigi has a fast stroke rate, which is good for competition. However, one of the things that he can improve is the gliding. He doesn't really glide too much, and he starts pulling while the kick is still going, which is a big mistake. Another area of opportunity is his tolerance for CO2. At the beginning, we can see that he goes half of the pull just with the pullout. Now, this is normal because it's with a dive. But on the first pullout, he goes up to maybe 7 meters. And on the last pullout, he does about 6 or even 5 meters. My guess is that he doesn't have a big tolerance for CO2 and he wanted to come up for air quicker. So he did a rush pullout. I would love to see underwater footage of that pullout, but my guess is that his arms don't pull hard enough on the pullouts. The last thing I would say, and it's easy to correct, is to be on his marks quicker. As you can see, he waits for the judge to say on his marks to go down, while the swimmer on lane 2 is already on his marks and is the first one to leave the blocks. That's because he was prepared before everyone else. Like I said, very different advice for the 3 of them. If I would know their goals, their age, their mobility, their coordination, and their strength, I would make the advice even more personalized. That's why in our swim camps, we test different speeds, we record at different angles, we know the goals of everyone, and we do dryling exercises to test the mobility, the strength, the coordination, and the balance. And we also do breathing exercises, all based on our 5 pillars of swimming. If you want to send your video, you only have to answer this questionnaire. And to get to this questionnaire, you need to be subscribed to this level of members on YouTube. You can send us a video every month or cancel your subscription on the first month after sending the video. Remember, this is a YouTube service. We cannot cancel your subscription for you. This is not our app or our webpage. This is a YouTube subscription. This is the lowest price you'll find on a video analysis. And we can do this because we use it as content for our social media. But if you want a private analysis, you can do that too on the higher tier members on YouTube. When the demand for this service goes up, we'll cancel this level of subscription and the prices will rise. So make sure to send your video as soon as possible. If you want to find out more about our 5 pillars of swimming, click on this video. If you want to know more about our swimming camps, click on this other video. See you there. Swim smooth.